Why don't you ever listen to me? How come you never listen to what I have to say? This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about effective communication because so many problems start with communication. If we think about the meaning of the word communication, it comes from the root word to commune, which means to be with. Communicating is everything. Relating to the world, relating to people, having people relating to you is being in relationship, and there is a wise way of relating to others, and that's called communication. And why does this matter? Why does it make a difference in your life? Well, I'm going to share with you a story. It's 2017, and I find out my mother is passing away. I fly home. I see her for her last moments of living. She died that morning when I got there. And fast forward to 6 months after that, I fly back to California. I call my brother, my father, see how they're doing. Didn't get a call back. I go to my regular jiu-jitsu classes. I'm training with these people for a good 5 years. Not a single one says, "Spence, is everything okay?" I call my brother and my father a few more times just to see how they're doing, to check up on them. They never return a call. I begin to wonder, why isn't anybody there for me? Why isn't anybody hearing me? Why doesn't anybody call me up to see how I'm doing? I'm watching a Dan Locke business coaching YouTube video, and he talks about something. I'm listening to him, and he's talking about how people call him up as clients and ask him, well, what can you possibly tell me that I don't already know? I've already tried this, this, and this. And Dan Locke responds, well, have you tried this and have you tried this? And they say, no, I haven't, never heard of it. And Dan Locke in his video proceeds to say, there's things in life, you know what you know what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. And I realize he took the Landmark Forum. He's a Landmark Forum graduate. That's explicitly said in the Landmark Forum. I open up another page on Google, and I click on the Landmark Forum webpage, and I sign up for the next Landmark Forum because I had committed to taking it in 2011. It's now 2018, and I'm frustrated as to why nobody is calling me up to see how I'm doing. Long story short, fast forward, I take the Landmark course. And during the Landmark course, I'm being asked to call people and tell them how inauthentic I've been, the impact of being inauthentic, and have this accountability conversation with people who matter. And it was important to me because I was wondering, why didn't my father, of all people, he didn't call me back to see how his son is doing after his mother died, when I'm calling him to see how he's doing since his wife died, my mother. And I realize it's not his fault because I was blaming everybody. Had the finger pointing at all people in circumstance. And I realize I got one finger pointing back at me. And in the Landmark Forum, I realized that all my problems with my father stemmed from me, not from him. So I called him up, and I had this conversation that went along like this. I'm talking to him on the phone, and I tell him, Dad, it's been a while, and I know, we haven't always gotten along and seen eye to eye. I know I've always never really listened to what you had to say and always talked back to you and was just disrespectful to you. And I get that really frustrated you, and to such a degree that you didn't even return a phone call after I called you to see how you're doing. Because you must have been so aggravated with me and how I've been with you a majority of my life. And Dad, I have to apologize because underneath it all, I was just being insecure and I didn't know who I was when I was growing up. So I never listened to you because I always felt I had to prove something to you. And I get that it created this situation, this dynamic between us. And from now on, Dad, I'm going to commit to listening to you more. I'm going to commit to hearing what you have to say because, Dad, you have a lot of wise things to say, and I never listened to you. And I'm sorry for that because it alienated our relationship and it pushed you away so much that you didn't even want to call your own son to see how he's doing. And he said to me in return, I hear him on the phone and he starts laughing. He goes, Spencer, you don't know how long I've been waiting for you to say this. You don't know how long I've been waiting for this conversation. And I'm so glad that you did that. You're right. I am frustrated and I don't want to talk to you because you never listen to anything I have to say and always talk back. So I get it, Dad. I get it. From that point forward, I've cultivated a much healthier relationship with my father. Did the same thing with my brother. Did the same thing with old friends. And I realized how important communication is, effective communication. Because you see, 80% of communication is listening. And of that 20% that is expressing, 90% of that expression is not through words, it's body language. Body language and tone of voice. In the listening, I realized that I never listened for these things. Actually, I could growing up, but I used it for other means, not to connect, but to kind of have an advantage on people growing up. I grew up in a very competitive environment. But that being said, I realized the importance of listening. Not just listening to the words, but listening to where a person is coming from. Where does the person, or I should say, what does the person want to have gotten? What do they want to get to you so you understand where it is that they're coming from? This is so important in communication. Because once I understood that my father was coming from a place of that he loved me, that he wanted to guide me into a better life so I wouldn't have to make the same mistakes he did. And that's the place he was coming from. I said, Dad, I get it. All of the stuff you had to say was just saying, hey, I don't want you to make the same mistakes I had. I don't want you to go through the same hardship that I had. I get it. It's connected us so much now, because in his old age, the last thing I want him to do is die thinking, my son never listened to me, never had a relationship with my son. Now, this can be taken into all kinds of relationships, professional to personal to romantic. The ability to listen, the ability to read a person's body language. Sometimes they're saying yes and their body's saying no. Or they're saying no, but their body is saying yes. The body language and the tone is the more authentic expression than it is the words. Now, you've probably heard this before, to paraphrase what a person is saying so they know that you're listening, and it's very effective in creating connection with people, in telling the person that you're actually listening to them. It's pretty loud and clear that you're listening to them when you're able to paraphrase what they're saying. You don't want to repeat back word for word and just keep repeating back word for word. You're just imitating them. It doesn't, it's kind of weird to have someone imitate you. You paraphrase what they say, and then you can ask, is that what you're saying? Now let me hear this right, and you tell me if I'm really hearing what you want to say. You're really saying this, and that's where you get to, well, what is it they want you to get about what they're saying? And this happens men with women. It is especially happens with husbands and wives. Us men, we know we communicate differently. We just tell it like it is. Hey, do you want to talk? No. You feel like it? No. Okay. You know how it is in a relationship. Hey, babe, you want to do it? No. But they really do. What's wrong? Nothing. You tell a guy, what's wrong? Hey, nothing. Okay, cool. Let's go have a beer. Yeah, let's go. But you ask a woman, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. Because she wants you to mind read her. Because you can hear it in the tone of her voice. Oh, nothing. You can hear this sense of, I want someone to listen to me. You hear it in the tone of their voice. You see it in their body, like, oh, nothing. You know, their head goes down, their shoulders roll forward. Or, oh, nothing. Head goes the other way. Look at the body language. What's being said in the body language? What's being heard in the tone of the voice? This is really key. You can even mirror their body language. And energetically, you can resonate emotionally. Now, if you're into sales, if you're want to apply this in business, it's a very effective way of communicating. When your client or your boss is talking to you, coworker, mirror their body language. That immediately takes on an energetic resonance that creates trust. It immediately creates trust. Rephrase, paraphrase what they're saying, mirror their body language, and listen for their tone. When you really hear and you acknowledge that you're hearing, you're not just hearing, you're listening. When you express that, when you can make a person feel acknowledged, understood, empathized with, you're really going to connect with them and win them over. If you make the conversation all about you, which is 80% of conversations today, all about look at me, look at me, look at me, listen to me, look at me, look at me, look at me. No interest in you. It's a very self-centered way of being. There's a difference between look at me, give me, admire me, and hey, I want to share this with you. But this is what I'm up to. What are you up to? I'm going to compare myself to you, you know. You know what I'm talking about. You've heard people do that. They share their wins and then see if you got something going on because they're stuck in a competitive mind where they think they got to have the one-upmanship on you. You know, there's all these weird social dynamics and games that people play. But if you look past that and you just say, hey, I get you're wanting to share your wins with me. You feel good about it. Makes you feel more confident and feel good about yourself that you are a worthy individual. I get it. That you're worth the love and respect that you desire. I get it, man. Good job. Some people are bothered by that. Some people don't want you to know what they're really feeling and what's really going on in their lives. And they get they get offended by it, or they give you a deflection, if you will. You know, if people are deflecting and you can't get a straight answer, you just reiterate their deflection. Sometimes they hear themselves in your rephrasing and paraphrasing, and they're kind of like, wow, that's how I sound. And you can ask them, okay, so you're late because your alarm clock didn't go off and your dog was barking and pooped on the floor, and that's why you're late for work. And that's what you told me last week, though, and the week before. It's quite a common occurrence in your home that your alarm clock doesn't work and your dog poops on the floor. Am I understanding that correctly? And they kind of like, yeah, they know, you know that they're BSing. You say, look, man, I get it. You feel bad about coming late for work. Something happened. I get that you don't want to lose your job. But what's really going on, man? You pull them aside so you don't embarrass them. They may say, hey, got into a fight with my girlfriend. Got into another argument with my wife or something. They don't want to talk about it. I go, hey, if it's something personal you don't want to talk about, I get it. You don't have to talk about it. Honor a person's boundary. There's a way of entering into a conversation. Say, excuse me, can I have a word? I need to talk to you about something that's really important to me. Can we schedule a time for it? I don't want to interrupt you. It's a way to approach people in conversation, to create communication between others. Communication happens all the time. Every time you interact with somebody, you're in relation with them. And some people you don't want to talk to, but you have to. Or some people you really want to talk to and they don't want to talk to you. There's many social dynamics that the more you understand them, the better you are at communicating. Some people are born with this ability. And I see this a lot in the Italian Americans where I grew up. Always this sense of emotional sensitivity. They can always read what you're feeling, a high degree of empathy. And they just kind of feel things out and feel where you're at. And they can tell by how you respond energetically, the vibe that you give off, where you are. That's the highest degree of communication, when you can truly empathize with somebody, because you're going to get where they're coming from immediately, because you can feel what they feel, or read their energy, and respect where they are, accept where they are. Don't judge them. Once judgment arises, love is gone. When you can suspend judgment, love can come out. And when a person feels loved and accepted, then they can feel like they can be themselves. There's no greater communication than that. Now, in business, you may be negotiating. You may want something. You may want an outcome in a person. Maybe, say, in a sales position. Listening for what matters to a person. Listening for what's important to the person. Understanding their values and what they see for themselves and what they can get out of something you have to offer. This even happens with negotiating for a raise. And how do you bring up all of the benefits that you have done for the company to kind of boost your merit in order to increase the valued perception the boss may have of you, increase your value. You may have to say, hey, look, I've done this, and list things out. And then you ask the boss, would you agree? You create agreement. We both want this for the company. Do you believe that I have fulfilled that vision for the company? Therefore, do you believe that I deserve a raise? Because I've done this, this, and this. Because we're both working for the same vision of the company. You always speak in terms of agreement, never disagreement. Don't argue with people. Even if they're wrong, you just say, you rephrase what they say. And if what they say is, wrong in regards to it's going to make their life worse, then you may say, hey, have you ever thought about it this way? But you don't say you're wrong and I'm going to be, blah, 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 I'm right, and blah, 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 and argue, debate. Another way of communicating is just how to give something to somebody delicately when you got to give them constructive criticism. Is you bring up 2 positive points about them. Hey, you've done a great job. You always show up on time. I appreciate that. However, with this situation, I would notice is you've been lacking here and you forgot this. So you always approach it with the positive before you bring that criticism into the picture. Another way of communicating. There's a lot of communicating tactics that make the situation or give you the results that you want from a situation, a desired result, which is usually agreement. Holding somebody accountable. Very hard thing to do without making them feel guilty. To say, hey, I remember you agreed to do this. Did you fulfill on that? I know you're working really hard, and I can tell you're staying late. You always add to it the positive things. Acknowledge their accomplishments before you hold them accountable. Look, man, you work really hard. You put in a lot of time. I see you always go the extra mile. I know you got a lot on your shoulders. Empathize with them. But you said you would do this. Did you get it done? And if they didn't, you say, okay, I got it. I know you got a lot on your shoulders. There's just something I can do to help. Something I can do to help you get it done. Because it shows that you're a team player. Now, this is more for professional relationships, professional communication in the workplace. There's all different arenas and dynamics and circumstances and what's appropriate for what circumstance. But in all circumstances, there is an ability to empathize, to be able to read a person, to understand what their disposition is in that particular moment. And when you can acknowledge their disposition and where they are, they feel acknowledged. They feel like you got them. And they let their guard down. Because in all communication is about creating trust. When you have trust, you have workability. When you have workability, you have results. Communication is the key to everything in life. Whether it's negotiating, whether it's a personal relationship, whether it's just getting along with coworkers or your neighbors. Learning how to communicate effectively can get you a lot farther in life in cultivating a sense of community, connection, and networking, and love with close ones. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave a comment below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and share this podcast. Thank you so much for listening.